herbalists consider effective medicine?
Poison too much.
Well, the problem with the herbal medicine movement is the supplements that
I'm sorry, what were you saying about
the bindweed. A lot of people have, you know, it's kind of been canceled out of a lot of the herb books. You know, so I know I've read that it was once used for something, but a lot of the serious herbalists today aren't really using it for anything. So that's why we bypass that herb. Plant herb. It's actually sad when I kind of look out, because like when we get over to where that ACVD is, you'll see a lot of stuff that kind of got mowed over, you know. And it's just, you know, part of that urban, you know, grass is everything sort of thing, you know. Like it's like useless stuff, but everybody wants it, you know. And
people pay money for it?
Exactly.
A lot of money. That's what you got to tell them.
Exactly. It doesn't produce anything but a status quo, you know. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cross the street. There's a couple herbs across the street that we're gonna look at. And just so you know, I have a couple notes. If you're interested in my notes, I can email them to you. I have a little piece of paper that you can put your email address on. The books that we're looking at, the books that we're drawing from, well, some of them are Medicinal Plants of the Mountain West, which in my circle we call the Bible. It's an amazing book by a guy named Michael Moore, who we really like. We got Healing Wise by Susan Weed, another good startup book, especially if you're like one of the really artsy types. She kind of goes into and this gets on some people's nerves, but she kind of talks as the plant sometimes, and would like change her accent, you know,
To be a plant.
to be the plant.
That's great.
And then we have my teacher's favorite book, which is Herbs, Partners, and Life by Adele G. Dawson. Very good book. So, what we notice right off the bat here is juniper. This is a very common overlooked herb. You can actually eat the berries. Yeah, you don't want to eat too much. But like, you know, when you're walking past, you can pop like 2 or 3 of these in your mouth to get ready for eating it. It kind of readies the digestive tract. You don't want to eat too much, once again, but when they're nice and coated like this, you know, just pop it in your mouth, you know, and spit out the seed, you know.
And they're good for the digestive
and kidneys.
And
This is a sacred plant to a lot of native groups. People make necklaces out of the berries as well. You know, just by putting it on thread and wearing it around their necks.
And they dry out that way?
Yeah, they dry out like that. People use them, you know, in their spiritual ceremonies or to ward off negativity. It's just a lot of cultures do it. Like, it's a trip when a lot of cultures believe the same thing. There's actually a group of Indians called the Tewa Indians where they actually take this here, and take a piece of the leaf and put it in a pouch around their neck, you know, to ward off negative energy and things like that. So it's a really sacred plant to a lot of native people. The next one we're going to look at is called Rumex crispus. Rumex crispus is also known as yellow dock. We have some growing right here. It's also known as dock. Has anybody seen this before?
Oh yeah.
It's edible plants, free food. I'm gonna show you some more. We have this here. This is second year. It's kind of died down and went to seed. But if you look, when it's like this, that means the roots are really ready. It's really ready. The roots are really ready to be harvested because now all the energy's in the root.
so do you eat the root or the leaf?
All right, now you eat the leaf when the leaf, because you don't want to eat it when it's looking like that.
Right, more like this.
But yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
taste some over here actually.
Oh,
Because
okay.
we have some nice plush Rumex over there. What you would do with this is actually a liver tonic. Meaning it's good for the liver, the root. So what you do is and this you might want to do this with 2 people because it's a tedious root. It goes deep and it's fat. But when you pull it, you're like, wow, I can tell there's some nutritional value to this. It looks like it does. And what you'll do is you'll harvest it, you'll dry it. You'll dry it. You can chop it up first and dry it. And then what you'll do is you can either make a decoction, which is you boil it, for about 15 minutes. So you bring the water to a boil, put the roots in there, and then turn it down to simmer for 15 minutes. And then you just drink the fluid, just strain it out. And that is excellent for your liver. It's also high in iron. Very high in iron. It's a very natural way to get your iron. Unlike those iron pills that kind of are super hard on the stomach. Also in my notes I have that it's good for the roots. Also good for constipation and indigestion. So I want to go and we're going to look at some more that's growing. Remember, this is second year here, and this is the first year. Once you know these, you'll never forget them. You'll never forget them. Actually, we can eat some of this one if you're courageous enough. It has like a lemon sort of aftertaste.
Is it okay to pull the whole stuff?
Yeah, you can pull the whole thing out. It's edible. It's free food. Stuff that corporate America probably doesn't want you to know about. But why buy salad? You have stuff like that, So there's a lot of really good room X Crispus about 2 blocks down, like really plush, really big, if you like the taste of it. The leaf is full of calcium, and there's no, the only contraindication would be pregnant women shouldn't eat too much of their food. So that'd be that's the only concern. Otherwise, you're good. People make pesto out of this. One of my teachers, they just add olive oil, crush it up, add all your other herbs, your basil and stuff, and just have it away. Matter of fact, one of my teachers named Ann Drucker, what she did is she took people in New York on a walk, people that were homeless, to gather all the edible plants, and then they went and prepared them and fed the homeless with them. You can find a lot of great plants in the alleys. You don't really want the plants that are growing along really busy streets.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, because they kind of take in all that exhaust.
That's what I was wondering about.
But so that's room
X.
Yes,
dog tea. That's a big one.
All right,
Little flavor there.
So we're gonna keep on moving. Does everybody remember the name of that plant?
Room X Crispus.
Yes, that's the Latin name. And the reason the Latin name is so important is because no matter where you go in the world, that's the name they use. No matter what language they speak. The scientific Room X Crispus.
Room X Crispus.
Also known as yellow dot. Depending on where you come from.
I'm planting the wrong things in my garden.
Well, luckily these don't take any planting, really. They're just everywhere. Certain neighborhoods. Next plant we're going to look at is called Verbascum taxus. It's also known as mullein. This right here. This sad little guy has kind of been trampled and beat up, and usually this plant can get a lot bigger. So I'm thinking that because it's in the shade, it's probably going to stay small, but usually they're really big and hairy. Have you guys seen these around?
Mm-hmm. Is they Indian toilet paper?
Yes. Yes, that is the politically incorrect term. But and it has been used for toilet paper.
Yeah.
It's very soft. If you're out in the mountains and you don't have any, you have an emergency, go ahead and pick a leaf and handle your business. It's also known as more of a bronchial herb, the leaf. It's really good, like bronchitis and things like that. In my notes that I have for lungs and throat, bronchitis with hard cough and soreness. It's good for the onset of a lung infection. And some people actually smoke it for asthma. I don't recommend smoking anything for asthma, but if it works, if it's worked for somebody, they write it down. But it's been smoked, so it's safe for that. There's a lot of calcium and magnesium in the leaf, so you wouldn't want this one because it's been trampled and really beat up. But the big, healthy, happy ones that you'll see around, you do want it, and you can make what they call an infusion out of it, which is basically tea. Tea out of that. Let's see. Oh, so a big stalk will grow out of it in the second year, and it'll have little yellow flowers on it. And these little yellow flowers are great for earaches. Traditionally, people will just put them in olive oil and let it just wilt in the olive oil, and it extract enough of the properties in it to just really calm. I know a lot of people that have used it successfully. They're just so small, you have to pick a lot of them though. you know. But you know, put them in olive oil and let it sit. And yeah, that's what it's good for. The root is actually used for bedwetting, so it has an effect on the on the urinary tract. So that kind of it's an astringent, meaning it kind of draws in, so bedwetting is not as prevalent if you use the root and prepare it kind of the same way I was telling you about the other plant. All right, the flower has also been used against herpes. All right, so the next plant we're going to look at is a little farther down. And luckily on our walk, we're going to get a little bit more shade than probably some of the other walks again. I represent a store called Artemisia in Rue. I'm a student in the community herbalist program, and it's a really good program. Are you guys all aware of what an apothecary is? Yeah, you aware?
I'm not. No.
Apothecary. It's basically a place where you can go and buy really fresh herbs.
Oh, okay.
Fresh herbs and oils and things that give off an aroma.
Okay.
A lot of us will only when it comes to herbs, we'll go get the supplements. Mm-hmm. And the thing about supplements is that a lot of us don't know the quality of the herb that we're swallowing. We don't know how that company treated that plant. We don't know if it was the best plant or if it's even the plant they say it is.
Yeah. Or how much of the plant is actually
in it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is it actually has to go down into your digestive tract first, before it unleashes its, properties. Whereas if you take it in a tea form, it's going straight into the blood system, or a tincture. So these are different reasons why herbs have become this, it's preventative medicine. Sure it is, but it's also medicine. There's some strong herbal stuff out there, There's a plant called Scutellaria lateriflora, or skullcap, and this plant, I've seen it wipe out people's depression. Like if you have severe depression, and I've seen some other plants do some amazing things. The next plant we're going to talk about is yarrow. This stuff here. Have you guys seen this before growing around?
Yeah.
Yeah, this little feathery plant is a very, very noted herb. The Latin name is Achillea millifolia, and it's named after Achilles because of its hemostatic properties, meaning it coagulates blood. If you're bleeding, you chew this thing up into a little ball, mixed with your saliva, and slap it right on the cut, and it will stop your bleeding.
Wow.
Yeah, the way that story goes is that Achilles actually was taught by a centaur named Chiron, and Chiron was not like other centaurs. Centaurs are mainly into fighting and drinking, and stuff like that. But he was into higher learning, and he became like this master herbalist. Well, he ends up training Achilles, who's going to be this fierce warrior, and we all know how Achilles dies, of course. Mm-hmm. But he teaches him about this herb because he knows that he's going to be a fierce warrior, and he's going to need to use this because there's going to be a lot of bloodshed in these wars coming up. So anyway, he ends up dying, of course, by getting shot in the heel. Chiron, ironically, ends up getting bitten, I believe, by a poisonous snake. He gets poisoned somehow. I believe it's a snake, though. And he can't cure it, and so he's immortal. And so he has to suffer forever. The only way he was able to, he had to ask the gods to take away his immortality so he could die and not have to suffer anymore. And so what they did is they honored him by making him the constellation Sagittarius, which is the folklore behind Sagittarius, and also the story behind Achillea millifolia. As we look at my notes, once again, it's a digestive tonic, so it's good for the digestive tract. So just take the leaf and infuse it. That means just pour boiling water over it, let it sit. You don't even have to boil it. The leaf is, it's not as hard as a root, so you don't have to put it in boiling water at all. Okay. You just pour boiling water over it and strain it out. Mild laxative. It stimulates sweating, so it's really good for if you're having a dry fever and you need to sweat the fever out. It causes sweating. Make a really strong infusion of it. it says it helps shrink hemorrhoids, stimulates clotting and cuts and abrasions, and the root is good for sore gums and teeth. So if you chew it, just take it out and chew it. So these are long lost medicines that a lot of people, don't know about. They're right under there. They're spraying it with weed killer and, and all sorts of things like that. So the next plant we're going to look at is a relative of okra. It's part of the Malvaceae family. It's all this stuff here. There's some big ones.
I got plenty of that.
I do too.
About that root
I am trying to kill it, so maybe I'll change my mind.
Well, the only difference between a weed and like really an herb is that a weed is just growing where you don't want it to. But this grows everywhere. This is like one of the happiest herbs in Colorado, and it's for your lungs, and it's actually high in calcium. It's a demulcent, so it means it's internal soothing, like a cough drop. Internal, and for the outside, because the leaf, if you actually take a piece of it and kind of like just let it sit, it'll get kind of gooey and okra-ish. And that's one of the telltale signs that it's a relative of okra. Also in my notes I have that it says the tea is pleasant and green tasting and soothing for sore throat and tonsils. So it's a good tasting tea. Helps indigestion and stomach sensitivity. So if you feel like you're gonna throw up as well, it's another one that kind of works sort of like ginger would, and calming your stomach. And it says mild effect on bladder and urethra irritability. So I guess it works like dandelion in that sense. But yeah, it's a good herb. It doesn't taste bad either. It's just it's kind of revitalizing. And if you like okra, it has that little slimy, don't slimy
the root for anything?
It's just the leaf. The leaf for this one, yeah. All right.
Really do, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't, and maybe I just haven't ran into the book yet that has the root. In the books I haven't seen anything for the root.
Sure.
Now the next one we're going to talk about is the very common dandelion. Happy, happy, happy. Colorado is packed with these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful herbs. In my notes, what I have here is that it's a digestive bitter. That's why the leaf is so bitter. And in herbal medicine, one thing we learned is that bitter things are good for the digestive tract. So if you want to add it to your greens, or make a pesto out of it, you can. Just like the other herb we talked about. It's a diuretic, meaning it kind of pushes all that waste into your urine. If you felt like I ate like crap this week, you know what I mean, or whatever, and you just feel icky, or you have a sickness, you can just push it in there. You can just pee it right out. Liver stimulant. It's one of the best forms of natural potassium, and that's the whole plant. You could eat the whole plant. You can drink large quantities with no problems. It says drink root to dissolve kidney stones. It's also good for chronic constipation, and it's an overall tonic. One of my teachers called this the herbal multivitamin. So you can harvest a bunch of the leaves, and there's different ways you can do it. You can make a vinegar out of it.
I've heard of dandelion wine.
Yeah, you can make dandelion wine. There's some recipes for that online. Speaking of alcohol, have any of you guys made tincture before? Made a tincture? So one thing you do is you get like Everclear, which is Everclear, right? Yeah, and which is a really strong alcohol or ethanol, and you'd basically either grab whatever part or even the full plant or whatever, fill up the jar and just pour it over that and let it sit for a month, and then you would get a dropper and take like 2 dropperfuls, whenever you felt like you needed to for a multivitamin sort of effect. You know what I mean? Of course you wouldn't, because you'd get faded, But, that's how you make tinctures, And you can also do that same thing with vinegar as well. Organic apple cider vinegar. Yeah, and let that sit for about the same amount of time and just right into your...
And aren't you supposed to put it under your tongue?
You can put it under your tongue. Yeah, you can put it under your tongue as long as it hits the tongue,
Okay.
That's the way, But you can also make a tea a bit. It'll be bitter, but you can make a nice tea out of it as well for that energy and vigor that we all need in our lives.
So if you were going to make tincture or a vinegar with it, would you use the whole plant, like pop it out by the root and just do the whole?
You can.
The whole thing.
You can, although typically,
usually
people just use the leaves.
Okay.
Leaves and roots, or leaves or roots.
Okay.
But you know, it doesn't. In my experience, it doesn't really matter so much. You still get all the minerals you need. But typically, people don't use the flower. Okay. Although you can walk around and just eat the flower heads. You know, if you need a little boost and you have absolutely no chips or anything. So. So once again, you know, it's really cheap medicine. It'll save you a lot of trips to the store. You know, I haven't had to take vitamins since I started messing with herbs. There's so many vitamins already in the herbs. You know, and that the vinegar will extract less than the alcohol of the nutrients, but you just take a little bit more of the vinegar, you know, for the same effect. But the alcohol dissolves more of the alkaloids that you're trying to get into your system. So we have actually one more herb we're going to see on this herb walk, and it's called plantain. And when I learned about this herb, I was just like, man, I've seen this everywhere. We're actually walking past some right now, but I want to show you some of the bigger plants over here that I saw. The Latin name is plantago, and this is another one for skin abrasions. If you chew up that leaf and put it on a sore or a cut, you know, it actually has a lot of soothing properties. And you see it right here, and you see it right here. You know, it has this little stalk coming out of it, and you know, it's really good and noted for bug bites. You know, you're like, ah, God! You know, grab that leaf, chew it up, and you know, you might look funny to someone that doesn't get it, but you know, intestinal inflammation. You can also, it says dried roots and leaves for chronic lung problems in children. Teaspoon in cold water every morning. So once again, it has a lot of these plants. They all have a lot of they have a lot of different uses. You know, and some of them have similar uses, which is good because you can't always find, you know, sure, that particular plant. So it's good that they kind of, you know, some of them sort of fade into the other uses. But once again, mild stomach ulcers, and once again, there's no contraindications. You're not gonna, nothing's gonna happen to you for having too much of this. You know what I mean? You don't have to be careful. You don't have to be careful with dandelion, you know, or any of the other herbs that I really showed you today.
What's this one called?
Plantain.
Plantain.
Yeah, and you'll see it everywhere. Once you learn it, once you learn it, they just pop out. You know. So I'll walk with you guys back up here. If you guys have any questions, I'll take them now. We looked at juniper. We looked at yellow dock, which is also called Rumex crispus. We looked at mullein, which is for Bascom thapsus, which is kind of beat up over here, the little one with the earache. Yeah, the earache oils and the bronchial effects. We looked at yarrow, which is the one where I told that long story about Achilles.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it helped you remember the Latin name, you know, Achillea millefolium. And that one, once again, to stop that bleeding, if you need to stop it. I use it for when my daughter has a bloody nose. I'll chew it up and stuff it up her nose, and it'll clog that bloody nose right up. Of course, it looks funny, and she says "ew" every time I do it.
coming out of your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm her dad. And then we also talked about mallow, which I didn't mention is related to marshmallow as well. People used to make marshmallow out of the actual plant marshmallow, and mallow is in the same family as that. It's funny when you start noticing that all of our candies are all based off of some sort of plant that people used to use. Licorice root is delicious, you know, but you know they come out with their own licorice, you know, which is bad for you, you know, kind of copy it. Licorice is also good for digestive things as well. Was there any questions or anything?
No, it was real interesting.
Yeah, once again, check out the books. Food and Weed, anything by Michael Moore.
What was that one? Herbal plants, medicinal plants of the Rocky Mountains?
Yes. This one is great, and the guy has a crazy sense of humor that he'll just kind of sneak in certain parts. You know, and I'm just glad all of you guys came on my walk today. It was really
Thanks for doing it.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
Yeah,
walking.
thanks. It was fun.
Definitely. No problem. Have a good time. All right, have a good day. No problem.
That's how we do.
You wait all day.
I hope I see you.